Today, we're going to tackle one of the toughest subjects out there, suicide, but through a lens that might just change how you see everything. It's a new theory called the Brain Kinematics Model, and honestly, it's a radical departure from how we usually talk about this. So let's dive in.
So let's just start with the one question that this entire model is built on. For as long as we can remember, the assumption has been that suicidal thoughts come from a desire to end one's life. But this model stops us right there and asks a profound question. What if it's not about that at all? What if it's about something else entirely?
And here it is. This is the idea that flips the whole script. The Brain Kinematics Model proposes that these thoughts are not a wish for death. Instead, they're a deep, almost biological urge to stop an unbearable strain. Think of it like a physical pressure that is built up inside the brain to an intolerable level. This idea of strain is the absolute key to all of this.
To really get our heads around this, we have to kind of update our mental software for what the brain is. We often think of it like a computer, right? Processing data. But this model asks us to imagine it as a physical material, something that can be stretched, compressed, and if you're not careful, completely overloaded with strain.
So, this is the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM. It basically says the brain's tissue is viscoelastic. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but the analogy is actually pretty simple. Think about memory foam. You can press down on it, put it under stress, but it's designed to bounce right back. So from this viewpoint, mental health isn't just about abstract thoughts and feelings. It's about the very real physical ability of our brain to handle and release the neural strain that life throws at us.
And you can really see the difference here. On the left, that's what a healthy brain looks like under this model. It's flexible, it can handle the pressure and bounce back. But look at the right. That's an overstrained brain. It's lost that flexibility. It's become rigid, imbalanced, and it gets stuck in these damaging patterns. The bounce back is gone. And that leads us to this really crucial idea, residual strain. Look, we all have stress that comes and goes. This is different. This is the stress that doesn't go. It's the tension that just hangs around after a hard day, the stuff that doesn't get discharged. And over time, it just accumulates, kind of like a pressure cooker with no release valve. It just builds and builds and builds.
So what happens when that pressure cooker finally overloads? Well, this is where the BKM framework starts to explain what we traditionally call mental disorders. It's that tipping point where all that physical strain turns into a condition that you can actually diagnose.
This is so fascinating. The model sees different disorders as different physical states of strain. So depression isn't just feeling sad. It's a physical state where the system is overdamped, stuck in this low-frequency hum. It's literally a system stuck in slow motion. And anxiety? That's the complete opposite. It's a state of super rapid oscillations. The system is physically stuck in fast forward.
Okay, so if this strain is always building up, how does our brain get rid of it? Well, according to this model, we have a built-in natural release valve, our sleep, and more specifically, our dreams. You can think of dreaming as the brain's nightly maintenance cycle, the process it uses to discharge all that leftover strain and get us back to a flexible, balanced state by morning.
But what happens when that release valve breaks? Well, when the strain from your waking life is just too much, it starts to poison your dreams. Instead of releasing the pressure, you start having these repetitive, stressful nightmares. And suddenly, sleep isn't the solution anymore. It's actually part of the problem. And that residual strain, it just keeps on building with nowhere to go. All right, now we get to what might be the most central piece of this whole puzzle. All this physical strain we've been talking about, it doesn't just float around in a void. The theory argues that it all channels into one critical part of who we are, our self-esteem. Now, in this model, self-esteem isn't that fuzzy feeling of being confident. Not at all. It's described as the core strain balancing index. Think of it like the main pressure gauge on a complex machine. It takes in all the data from our relationships, our jobs, our sense of belonging, and integrates it all into one single critical reading.
And here's the really powerful insight. All these hugely different life stressors, losing your job, a tough breakup, facing discrimination, the brain translates all of them into a single variable, a hit to the stability of our self-esteem. They all put pressure on that one central gauge.
So you can see the cascade happening here, right? Strain builds up day after day. The sleep cycle, which is supposed to release it, fails. And all of that immense pressure gets funneled directly into eroding our core sense of self. Eventually, something has to give. The system is pushed right to its breaking point. The model has a name for this moment: critical saturation. It's the point where the accumulated strain is so immense, so overwhelming, that it literally exceeds the brain's physical ability to hold it. And this is the most important takeaway of all. The thought of suicide emerges not from a desire for death, but as the system's final, desperate biological attempt to find any possible path to release that unbearable physical pressure.
This model also helps make sense of some of the data out there. We know that suicidal ideation tends to peak between the ages of 20 and 40. Well, BKM would suggest that's because this is a period of maximum strain. You're figuring out your career, your identity, your relationships, all things that put direct pressure on that central gauge of self-esteem.
The model also offers a way to look at gender differences without judgment. It suggests that the underlying pain is often very similar, but the way that strain is expressed or released can differ. For men, it suggests a tendency toward more rigid, all-or-nothing actions, sometimes driven by a twisted belief that their absence will actually reduce the strain on the people they love. For women, the model points toward a greater chance of activating relational memories, that incredibly powerful thought that others need me, which can act as a brake.
Okay, this has been pretty intense, I know, but the most powerful part of this model isn't just how it explains the problem. It's the clear path it lays out for healing. Because if the problem is too much accumulated strain, then the solution has to be about finding safe, effective ways to let it out.
And this is why something like talk therapy can be so powerful through this lens. It's not just talking. It's a form of symbolic strain release. You're literally creating a safe channel to vent some of that built-up pressure, to redirect it. And bit by bit, that allows the whole system to regain its natural flexibility, its ability to bounce back.
So ultimately, the path back to balance, according to this model, involves these key steps. You have to restore that healing power of sleep. You have to find ways to reinforce self-esteem and make it more stable. And you have to reconnect with the people and the purpose that give you strength. It's all about tackling the strain before the pressure becomes critical.
And that really leaves us with this final massive question to think about. If we start to see mental pain not as a character flaw, but as a physical signal, a warning light that a system is dangerously out of balance, well, that changes everything, doesn't it? It forces us to ask not just how we can fix individuals, but how we can build our families, our workplaces, and our whole society in a way that creates less strain and more balance for all of us.